Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Refracted Curvature, Arwin, Neil, Brian's Logic, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hey, good morning.
Hello, hello. Good morning.
I can't get off mute. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, good to have you all.
I can't get on mute.
Good afternoon.
There's a bit of a plug. Normally we don't do plugs before any housekeeping or anything else, but if you are a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, you are going to want to check out today's pre-show. So it's 17:23, I believe, today. So check out today's uncut and after show after this live show ends, because for whatever reason, the stars all aligned. We had a really coherent 10 straight minutes of really good, solid, flat earth information. And it was very specifically in regards to how the flat earth that we dwell atop and measure is transformed into a globe. So with that in mind, Refracted Curvature, or John, as he's known to us by, has postulated a question that he kind of wants to put out for the audience that are actually globe believers to perhaps comment on below this video or leave a chat comment. There is a live stream chat that's running. Shout out to everyone in the live stream chat. But basically, I want a sort of straw poll, maybe we'll call it, in terms of whether or not you appreciate that the application of the Haversine formula is applied to a flat plane. John would like to know if you are aware of that, and will hopefully paraphrase that question again now for you to appreciate that it's him asking. Go ahead, John. Hello, John. Oh, Quantum Eraser, and hello, Chocolate. Go ahead, John. Sorry to cut you guys off before you get to say hello.
Morning.
Where the hell is John? Oh, is he gone already? What a build-up for nothing.
You said 1723. Is it 1724 on my notepad, or is it 1723 today's show?
1723 is today's show, I believe.
All right, I got one number off then.
Yeah. In any event, John's obviously disappeared just at the wrong moment, but nevertheless, he did specifically rejoin after saying he's got a work gig to get on with, to say, I'd like to know if the audience, who are globe believers, are aware that the Haversine formula is a transformative equation applied to a flat plane and the measurements thereof. Are you or are you not aware of that? As globe believers, please leave us a comment to let us know whether or not you are aware of this. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Only considerations.
Evidence as opposed to geometric assumptions and considerations, please.
There are none.
But in the pre-show, that book was implying that it was the most strong evidence that we're on a sphere by assumption.
Yes, indeed. It was incompatible to think that we live on a plane, it said.
Because boats go over a physical geometric sphere edge horizon we debunked back in 2020.
And then the use of the Haversine formula to give redundantity, if I said it correctly, to an Earth that doesn't have any spherical surfaces.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
We're moving again.
Not as far as I can detect, not as far as I can measure, and the claimed prophecy from a globe Earth believer would be to say that we observe a 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth turns beneath things that are not attached to the spinning surface. Now, that claim of a Coriolis deflection at 15 degrees an hour would mean that you had the necessary requirement for that to take place, which is Earth turning beneath things that aren't attached, and that would shorten flight times. As a consequence of the fact it doesn't happen, and therefore isn't a demonstrable proof that the Earth is turning, we have anti-flat Earth believers, shall we say, globe heretics, telling us that the reference frames are ruined. Yeah, we don't observe any proof that we spin.
Or you wouldn't expect to see drift.
Yeah, even though the
just
globe claims
projecting.
we'll expect to see 15 degrees an hour of it as a proof we spin, anti-flat Earth globe heretics tell us that we wouldn't expect to see drift.
They're just projecting and they're jealous. Because they want to be the one to be saying that, but they shouldn't. So they just project their predicament onto us.
Nah, they want a taste of being a flat earther. I
also
think
makes,
Dan wanted to taste the flat earth life. And us telling them that their reference frames are ruined because there isn't any demonstrable drift to show, he wanted a taste of that. So he just took it upon himself to tell me that my reference frames are ruined when I don't have any, and he's destroying the globe claim that there's two of them showing drift at 15 degrees an hour. But there we go. Such is life for an idiot globe believer. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
If that was the case, I'm sorry.
No,
I
you
was
go
going
ahead.
to say, if
Go ahead,
that was the case, it would be a lot simpler to get out to the West Coast because, my destination is actually coming towards me as I fly towards it. But it would be probably pretty hard to get back to the East Coast, like when I want to fly back to New York or something from California, because that means my destination would be flying away from me or going away from me as I'm flying towards it. And in some places faster than the plane that I'm in.
Right,
is
you'd
that
have to go
supposed to
by
be
train.
reality?
You'd have to go by train, right? In one direction, and then the other, you just go in a balloon, and then you wait a few hours, and then you're on the other side.
Yeah, that would be awesome, right?
Lots of
Absolutely
one-way
correct.
trains.
What Chocolate's describing is the absurd requirement for Coriolis effect. Coriolis effect being not actual deflection, things looking like they curve because you turn beneath them. That's Coriolis deflection. The not actual drift observed in the non-inertial reference frame as you rotate beneath in the inertial reference frame as you rotate beneath in the non-inertial turning reference frame. So you on a roundabout and somebody not on the roundabout tossing a ball over the top of it. The ball being tossed over the top of the roundabout is travelling straight, but because you are on a roundabout turning beneath it, it looks like it curves. So to have this effect, that's Coriolis deflection, you need you to be turning underneath things and looking at them seem to take a path that they're not really taking. So for this to be applicable to a globe Earth that's turning, you have to be underneath the plane, looking up at it, going, Bob, check it out. That plane looks like it's taking a curved path, doesn't it? And Bob says, nah, that's us turning underneath the plane. So it only looks like the plane's taking a curved path. It's really going straight as we turn underneath the plane. So us on the ground are turning underneath the plane. And the things that are west of us are coming towards that plane as it moves towards them, shortening the flight times massively. It's amazing. Yeah, but Bob, the flight times don't get reduced as the ground turns underneath the plane and comes towards it. That never happens, mate. Maybe it's just curving, as opposed to us turning beneath it to make it look like it's curving. Maybe it just is actually taking a curved path, and we're not turning beneath it, because if we were, the flight times would be massively reduced. Further to that, the plane that's going east on the equator is never going to reach its destination. It's going to catch it from behind. It's absurd. Any evidence of the distance to the
None
sun?
of that checks out.
Yeah, none of that does check out.
They even say it's absurd when it's explained to them. Even my son said, "That's ridiculous. How's that going to happen?" I said, "Exactly. It doesn't happen. That's why it's a joke."
Yeah, Dan fell into the trap. Simon and Dan we're referring to fell into the trap that Chocolate often describes in his co-workers, which is to say that you explain the long and short of a globe Earth rhetoric, in this case, Earth turning beneath aeroplanes, for us to see them look like they drift, like a ball looks like it drifts according to Neil deGrasse Tyson when you watch it from the stands and it goes through the goal. Earth turns beneath the ball, and then you get the field goal. Hooray! Well, that's Earth turning beneath the football. Or when they say that, the Earth turns underneath a sniper's shot. So they have to track the target because the Earth turned underneath the bullet. Yeah, that's Earth turning underneath a bullet. So according to the claim, Earth turns underneath planes. And if Earth turns under planes, then we've got massively reduced flight times. That simply doesn't happen. So it doesn't check out in the slightest. But when you explain this to somebody who thinks they're a globe believer and they realise the absurdity of the globe claim of Coriolis effect, they start telling you how absurd it is. And telling you that the reference frames that would be me, describing them as a flat earther describing the nonsense globe claim, they don't recognise that I'm describing a nonsense globe claim and start attacking me and my reference frames that I've described the globe has, because they're too thick to keep up with the conversation. So they feel the need to start attacking the absurdity of the claim, which is a globe claim of 2 reference frames. So someone like Dan or Chocolate's idiot colleagues start attacking him on the absurdity of the globe claim. That's why we tell our audience of globe believers, in quotes, that they're just as dangerous as us. Because they'll go on to their shows, classed as what authoritative content, maybe not, and tell their audiences how the globe claims wrong. Shout out to Unitox Femu, who says, today I reached Area 51, and to add water, doesn't want to curve. Are you in here, Sasha? I don't understand that at all. Does anybody follow that? Today I reached Area 51, ... and to add water doesn't want to curve. Party, 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 party.
It's 2 separate sentences.
Pardon?
Right? It's just 2 sentences. Like the first one is just, hey, Area 51, ooh, secret, spooky things, aliens maybe. And then, oh yeah, water also is not curved. That's basically what he said.
It's today I reached Area 51, full stop. And to add, water doesn't want to curve. Okay, now that makes sense. Thank you for breaking that down for me, Arwen. You've only got so many letters in the super chat, and I really appreciate the support. Thank you very much, Sasha. Or Unitox Femu, as his screen name is.
He has a very interesting way of saying things.
Today, he's 51 years old. There we go. Today I reached age 51. Okay.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
I was going to say, where's there water in Area 51?
That makes a lot more sense.
The one you bring with you.
Happy birthday, Sasha.
Right. Shout out to Sasha's birthday. Today he reached age 51. Got it.
You
We still haven't covered it. I've asked it 3 times, right? Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
It's over there.
Over where?
There.
Over here.
That
Not there, here.
How can that be? Because I'm looking at it over
it's
here.
everywhere. It's wherever you see it. But it's
So that's two.
not anywhere.
So that's 2 Beatles songs in a row. The sun is here, there, and everywhere. And today it's Sasha's birthday. Okay.
What?
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the center of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Yes. P waves and S waves.
Okay, fill us in.
Well, they definitely did try to predict what they would find using sort of echo techniques in the dirt in order, to figure out what they were going to find as they were going to drill down. And they were wrong every step of the way. But they learned a lot about it. And then they never did it again.
Oh,
someone-
they learned their lesson.
I guess so.
That it? Any more?
Yeah, that's the proof for molten iron core. They tried, failed, and then never tried again.
I mean, that is actually the genuine rhetoric, in case anybody wasn't following along with Arwin. That is actually the story, believe it or not.
Following in the vein of the Beatles, so they decided to let it be.
Indeed. And then claim it's a globe proof. Neil, you forget water part, says Unitox Vemu. Water doesn't want to curve. Well, water at rest doesn't tend to curve now. Any evidence you can have gas pressure? Let's have a bit more enthusiasm for this housekeeping question. Any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container for all the fundies who think the sky is a vacuum?
You can't calculate that.
The V you can calculate it, but the calculation leaves us all dead. So the V is the volume. Well, the volume is the amount of space you've got. And space, outer space, is a space for gas. So when you calculate how much space you've got for the gas, that would be the volume, the V in the equation, that you can calculate. We just don't have any gas here, do we, Arwin?
No, but outer space has an infinite volume, so you
That's what
just
I'm
can't
saying.
calculate.
Right, okay. So if I want to calculate, for instance, how much gas pressure you've got on this sphere Earth in this diagram with, check out how non-parallel these lights are to claim the eclipse. Isn't that crazy? Do these lines look parallel to anyone on the panel? Talking about the G+ pictures.
No.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? I
And we're
thought they
not
were all
bitches.
parallel. Isn't that crazy? Anyway, let's just pretend for a second that this is your typical artistic rendition claimed to be a photograph of Earth from space, and it's got clouds on it, right? So let's pretend that we can't see any of the Americas because it's all covered in clouds, right? So that would mean that you've got high pressure gas, and what's the V? What's the volume? Well, it's the area that it's got, right? Well, that would be all of this area, wouldn't it? Space. That would be 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum, an area, a volume for the gas. Now, obviously, typically gas, in reality, takes the shape of its container. And this stupid cartoon with contradictory converging light rays where they claim they're parallel, that doesn't have any containment. So therefore the volume you're saying you can't calculate for is just the volume they claim is the space, outer space. There's your volume. Vast amount of space for the high pressure gas to want to expand into. And that's what it would do.
Right, but you can't end up with a calculation for how much gas pressure you would have in the end.
Well, you just have a very minuscule amount because it would all disperse into the volume. That's what I'm saying. Where we currently have nice, cushy air to breathe, yum, 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 we wouldn't have that anymore. It would fill the space.
Of course, that's just the natural effect, but yeah, the calculation part is still also interesting that you really can't calculate, because if the volume is infinite and it's supposed to be like that, officially they just do that. They still stick numbers to certain volumes, assumed virtual volumes, but it's only for practical purposes, because otherwise they can't calculate anything about it. Because infinity, that doesn't work out in physics, right? Even in virtual physics like the globe. So they can't calculate the gas pressure in the universe if it would spread out. They can't. It would be infinitely small, literally, because the volume is presumed to be infinite.
Actually, they do have a specific set volume currently. I don't know the number off the top of my head. QE has often corrected me on that point. I can't remember the details to correct you, but what I can say is you're wrong.
I know what you mean, but that specific thing is that arbitrary decision. It's just a decision made in order to be able to calculate things about it, because officially it isn't. It's just a number they decided upon. They voted upon it. Like, this is it.
Check out this super chat from us so far. It says, AI can't figure out the Earth is flat. There's a new text-to-image software that turns your words into art, but it makes a flat Earth a globe every time. Thank you very much for telling us. If you could just make a note of it, you don't have to super chat again, but if you tell us in the chat what the name of the software is, that'd be really useful.
Check out Mind Unveiled's video. He did a whole video about that specific software.
Mind Unveiled.
Yeah.
Check him out. Do you know the name of the video by chance?
That won't be flat earthy though, will it? If it's Mind Unveiled, what was he saying about it? I wouldn't have been like a cult or something, won't he?
He didn't mention anything about that specifically, but it's like a AI algorithm that if you just put in words, it's going to try to make a piece of art out of that. And they're getting really good at it. Kind of creepy and very esoteric, very occult sometimes. Goes in all directions. But I think it's really a risky program to use because it will actually discourage like artistry of individuals that they do on their own time because it's really
don't
easy.
agree with that.
Anyway, I'll link you up.
Okay. No matter how good the AI, I know we're off on a tangent, but I want to talk about this tangent just because, by coincidence, I embrace all the things that my kids want to do for pleasure if it might develop into something educational. In this case, art. So my eldest daughter is incredibly into art. She's very good. Therefore, I promote that or nurture that and take it to various different art classes. Anyway, in the art classes, I get to obviously sit and listen to some of the various different stories of various different artists. Fascinating stuff. But the one prevalent thing that always comes through is that for the artists to have become popular, they have done something outside of the box, unique, something not what somebody who's an art aficionado might say groundbreaking, but I wouldn't use those words, but just very unconventional. Well, I don't think any AI will ever reach the point where they're, other than producing stuff that's just very weird, they won't be able to take that idea to an abstract way of doing things, shall we say. Whereas there's plenty of people who will come up with art often not appreciated in its time that is later appreciated for its abstract nature, but requires a genius level that is beyond artificial intelligence, in my humble opinion.
All right, well, check it out. Watch his video. Has a good, sharp analysis. He's been using these types of programs for a while, so he knows some of the things you might deal with it. So I posted the link in Master B and in the YouTube chat.
Okay, you ever heard of Damien Hirst?
Cutting a car in half.
You got it. So an ex-girlfriend from back in the 2000s that I used to go out with lived in a part of the UK where he had his workshop, shall we call it. It looked like a massive factory. Now, while you couldn't see what was going on inside, what you could see was workers and what they were doing outside the building. And what they were doing was taking massive amounts of formaldehyde from an outside container inside to the building where they were doing whatever work they were doing at the time. Now, that later turned into cows chopped in half and various other formaldehyde pieces that this guy had done, right? Now, again, when we were contextualizing art earlier in terms of the two-dimensional image that's presented from a word translation through AI to a picture, how far outside of the box do you have to go to get from that to a cow chopped in half and put in formaldehyde, right? These two things are a world apart, and I never, ever envisage an AI or artificial intelligence being able to do what someone like Damien Hirst did. I just don't ever see that being the case. The outside of the box nature of that kind of thought, I just don't think is within the realms of any artificial intelligence ever. That requires a human. That requires... Art's the best example of this. I can't think of any better example to say. Artificial intelligence will never do that.
That is true, but these algorithms have actually been assimilating those types of things. So you'd be surprised what can come out of it. Like, really surprised.
That's
imitating.
So what you're saying is they are assimilating the outside of the box thinking of other artists. Yeah, and you might find aspects of it incorporated into AI art, but what you won't get is that truly unique outside of the box thing that a new artist will offer. You know, Jackson Pollock is.
Well, you will get it when it becomes updated, when it becomes integrated, right? But
yeah.
The moment itself will only come out of a person. I agree.
Absolutely. So I'll just give one more example. Jackson Pollock. Do you know who he is? It's okay if you don't.
No, but I thought artists are famous after they die.
Okay, just look up Jackson Pollock for the audience's benefit, right? You won't be confronted with anything conventional if you've never heard of him. If you know who Jackson Pollock is, you'll know exactly what you're going to be seeing when you go and look at his art. But, and then go and look up I think it's called the Pollockinator, I think is the contraption he came up with to essentially fly over his art to do what he was doing. I've got to give the game away now, which is spattering. But in order to not be a part of it in his feet or his body, basically, a bit like NASA, rigged himself up on high wire so he could float across the canvas and spatter paint on it in the most random possible way, right? But the way he flicked it and the way he did it, all of that the mechanics of that, the physics of that, I don't mean physics, the physicality, what's the word I'm looking for, Adam? The biology of it. Again.
The physicality of it all.
The physiological nature of how it's been performed, that physiological aspect, again, you cannot achieve that with AI.
It's not that. You could get it all set up for the AI to do it, but what you won't get with the AI is, after you've been swinging a while, that cheeky, nonchalant flick for no apparent reason out of nowhere, just because you felt like it. You know, that's what computers will never. There's no passion. I was doing some work.
No will.
Well, there's no... While he's doing it, right, imagine this guy. He's floating over his canvas. He's flicking his paint, and then the housekeeper comes in and goes, yeah, that postman has just been bitten by the dog again. And he goes, ah! Flicks the paint really violently. How's an AI going to achieve that? That won't happen.
Unless it's been programmed to be slightly erratic like that. Unless it's supposed to be emulating like weird behaviors, but that too
again, that's
simulated.
Yeah, but that's programmed to be like that, not because something external occurs, you become like that. You can't guarantee the postman is going to bite the dog for that message to come on at the point in the art for it to then affect the art in some way. Honey, you can't.
Did I have the postman biting the dog in my scenario? I don't believe I did.
What was it?
The dog
well, that's why
bit
you're
the postman,
out as well.
Not the other. I don't tend to hear headline news about it. Would be if a postman went into someone's garden and bit their dog.
I just realised that went over my head twice, Nathan. Yes, yeah. Well, that would be more newsworthy, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Definitely, that would be headline news if postman bites dog. God, we are so far off the rails today. Where the hell are we? What are we doing? What day is it? Who am I?
It's bank holiday yesterday, isn't it? That's the trouble.
Also, my wedding anniversary. Anyway.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. 8 years.
How many years? 8.
Yeah. Totally non-important anniversary in that regard. I did something quite sneaky, so I said to my wife, let's just not bother with cards.
Congrats, man.
I said, we won't bother. Just not bother. Knowing full well there's been at least one anniversary that I've forgotten about, right? So bearing in mind that I've made it explicitly clear we just won't bother, we're a bit broke, let's not buy cards. I went out and bought a card, slipped it under a pillow. So now there's always going to be that one time that she didn't get me one, just in case it happens again. Oh, do you remember that time that you didn't get me a card? You told me not to get one. That was not my recollection. I don't recall it being that way. Anyway.
Nice safety net.
That's it. That's my safety assurance that I've got now from 2022. Anyway, let's move on. We are miles off the rails now. Let's see if I can get this train wreck back on the track with a housekeeping question. Given that I've forgotten which ones we've covered, I don't really know where to go now. Any evidence of the R value? There we go. Nicely saved.
Black Swan.
Are you needing a radius of Earth?
Yeah.
That'll be a problem.
You mean if the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, which we've been told by the people that believe that is a straw man? You mean that radius? That one?
The one you require some geometric considerations for, yes.
Is it the evidence in the Haberstein formula?
Well, that's
No.
your geometric considerations, right?
Oh, no. What Neil just asked was, isn't the evidence for R in the Haberstein formula? What say you, John?
No, that's how they transform a flat plane into a curved surface, but by projecting that out. But no, it's not proof for the radius of Earth. No.
As Chocolate was saying, if the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, as the fundamentalist religious zealots who believe they're on a sphere tell us is the case, then every distance to that horizon, that would be the geometric horizon, could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Now, when they tell us, as Chocolate pointed out, that that's a straw man, that's not the case. So when the application of their sphere Earth at radius 3959 is applied to navigation in any capacity, even after the measurement of the flat Earth that you'll need to do it is applied, your sphere Earth geometric horizon will give you your mapping distances when applied in the geometric raw nature that gives you a geometric horizon. Well, the image on screen, as Chocolate whispered it at the beginning of this little section, Black Swan, that's what this is. The distance to the geometric horizon is, in this image, beyond the limitations of a geometric sphere edge hill getting in the way with boats falling over it. It's not obscuring anything because it's behind the objects it should be in the way of. Now, physical hills, that would be Earth curve, claim to get in the way of things, don't move beyond the things they're supposed to obscure. Hills don't do that. But that's what we're seeing, and that's why we say the Earth is not a sphere with a radius of 3959, because the horizon is not Earth curve. Any more to add on this?
Globe guys that don't really get that when you say refraction, that's not really a rebuttal. That's actually a concession. Because what you're talking about is optical as opposed to the physicality that you just gave up by saying refraction. After a couple of years, you might want to catch up to that. Thanks.
You also might want to realize that by saying refraction, you're cutting off all required uses of the geometric horizon, Earth curve. Because when you do your mapping, as Ruhif's currently finding out, you're going to be needing a geometric horizon to apply the distances. Because those maps are based on the raw derivation of the flat Earth measurements to the geometric ones that are assuming a radius value. So you've got to have them work with the maps that they've created with them. When you take a flat plane and the celestial sphere around it, apply the Haberstein formula to give you a globe to project up as though it was the tool you measured the flat plane you're actually standing on, and then reify that position into somewhere you're standing. Well, number one, that's all going to require a flat Earth, but it all requires the maps match up with the distances in the geometric considerations of a sphere Earth that give you a geometric Earth curve horizon. So you've got to have it, and you haven't. What's that? Refraction? Well, then you haven't got a geometric horizon. How are you going to apply any of this to anything ever if you're going to claim you're on a sphere? And the answer is, well, you'll try to apply a geometric horizon after 2020, like Ruhif's doing at the moment, and be laughed at. That's that geometric horizon working out for you there, buddy. Infinite over our refraction. Bagurk. Yeah, that doesn't leave you with a geometric horizon to apply, though, in your maths anymore, does it? You've debunked your own claim, you bunch of idiots.
Yeah, it's a little weird when you ask for the radius of the Earth and then they'll tell you, oh, how do we prove the radius of the Earth refraction? Oh, so you're going to take the radius of the Earth, put in an equation, and change it, and that proves the radius of the Earth that you just had, that you had to change? That's cute.
Now Chocolate's pointing out that the refraction they're applying when they refraction at us as a demolishment of their claim in the first instance that we've got a geometric horizon called Earth curve, they're actually applying a formula that's based on the radius and its geometric horizon. 7/6 of the radius in standard form is terrestrial refraction, otherwise known as atmospheric refraction. And atmospheric, sphere-shaped air, refraction has an R value. and you'll require a geometric horizon to have an R value to say that that R value based geometric horizon has moved with an R based refraction value. It's paradoxical, fondly named the Arwinian paradox.
Yep.
I have contention with that name, but that's okay.
With it being a paradox.
Boo.
No.
Is that the only paradox?
Yeah, go on.
Is that the only paradox? You started off with a paradox.
What, with sphere-shaped air?
Yes.
Air isn't sphere-shaped yet. It's an oxymoron.
Yeah, it dies right there. Also, have them define refraction.
7/6.
Have a little fun.
7/6 of Earth's radius.
Now, define refraction. What is refraction? Not you.
Light bending through sphere-shaped air, I assume.
Yeah, right.
There's another oxymoron in there too, when they use the tangent plane to assert a tangent to the horizon.
Yeah, if you're standing on a tangent, i.e. on the plane, at the point of tangency, you can't then have a further tangent point beyond that flat plane. So that's paradoxical also. Yeah, good catch. Any more? It's What's Your Paradox here on Flat Earth Debate. Any scientific evidence of gravity? Got this train right back on the tracks. Check
I
it
was
out.
just going to say, isn't that also basically another paradox? Everybody thinks it's a force, but it isn't actually a force.
But
they
you can
still
think of it as
it's
a force.
Yeah. I call that an aberration, by the way, because nothing is actually being proved. It's just so suggestive that people don't let go. Just
Well,
like
again,
ether.
that was a similar to what we discussed in the pre-show, again, in regards to specifically Ruhif and how he can cognitively process what was requested of the live audience right at the beginning of this show. You know, if you realize and appreciate that you're applying the Haversine formula to a flat plane, how can you sleep at night being a globe believer when you appreciate that? Well, equally, when you're told by a globe priest that you can think of gravity as a force, but it isn't, how'd you continue your fundy belief when that's been told to you? I don't get it.
Okay, can we do the full quote? Okay, can we do the full quote? George Musser. We must consider Newtonian gravity as a force. Doesn't mean it really is one, but we don't necessarily have to work at the really is level. End quote.
Heliocentric priest George Musser when talking about gravity. But is there any, just to keep us back on this train track, any scientific evidence of gravity?
There's no phenomenon occurring within nature. There's only conceptual medium activity and the inference from that. That's it.
I was telling one of my coworkers last week something. We were talking about gravity, and I told him, I was like, well, gravity hasn't been considered a force since 1915, right? And he's like, well, that's weird. I'm like, yeah, now it's like the bending of a conceptual medium. And I was like, well, if it was a force, wouldn't it just still be a force? Like, would it have changed like that? He's like, no, it just would be what it is. I was like, yeah, thanks. Appreciate that, your honesty.
Chocolate. The force with this one is weak, Luke.
What about any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
That's funny because I was looking at the stars last night with my boys in the hot tub in Tennessee, and we were talking about the stars, and my son was claiming that it's gravity that keeps us here on the Earth. This is my little son. And then we got into that numpty retard saying that magnetism is causing the stars to rotate. What a laugher.
I don't know what to say to that.
Is that a push or a pull?
I got very angry
Well,
with that guy
because
yesterday.
who has the answers to how the stars rotate?
What?
Google.
Nathan, once you're done.
Like, what's the matter, man? You
I
never
just want to
heard of
address that,
Google?
right? So, a speculation that a magnetic field that Earth has, we all know that a compass does work, right? But to extrapolate that into the cause of the star rotation is a supposition yet to be validated. Now, that supposition that magnetism causes star rotation in some capacity, what's another name for a supposition yet to be validated? Or how is that a way to describe something else? Anybody?
Hypothesis.
Hypothesis.
Spot on. So a hypothesis is your supposition that magnetism causes star rotation. And star rotation is most certainly a natural phenomena we observe. So this is most certainly open to scientific inquiry. And there is available to all who want to inquire about any natural phenomena or things that occur in nature, that method. Ergo, you could apply that method to your supposition yet to be validated. Now, when a supposition yet to be validated is presented here on Flat Earth Debate, and has been quite recently, frequently, in the form of the supposition that magnetism, which is in fact somehow based on the presupposition that it's encompassing ether, causes star rotation, all we would like to see, despite my disdain and anger towards the idiots posing this at the moment, is that that supposition is validated. And if it isn't validated, it's pie in the sky speculation from a bunch of deceived idiots. And nothing more. Now, for all of you who feel that it's unreasonable to apply an empirical method that is quite literally custom designed to validate or invalidate a supposition of a cause when applied to a naturally occurring phenomena, then you are quite literally on your own in a wilderness of deceit where there is empiricism available to you. Now, where that empiricism is available to you, not me, because I'm not claiming this, then you better damn well apply that empirical method rather than dress your supposition up like it's true or needs any credence given to it beyond a, that's an interesting supposition yet to be validated, because that's all it is. I just don't. The reason I've given that big old disclaimer is because I don't want people to say, well, how do you know that it doesn't cause the stars to rotate? Well, I do not. But I'm not, A, postulating this crap as my speculation of a cause and effect relationship, nor do I have any alternative to offer, or have I ever made any claims in regards to a cause and effect relationship in regards to star rotation. I don't believe anybody on the panel has either, to my knowledge, beyond Darwin, who likes to dabble in a bit of this and that. But with that exception notwithstanding, for the most part, we don't speculate about it to need any juxtaposition to have with their, that's ether believers, supposition yet to be validated. So it might be magnetism that causes star rotation, but I want to see somebody varying star rotation. Now, in yesterday's annoyance to whoever was postulating this crap about ether, I said, can you make the stars stop? Now, listening back to it after the fact, I was like, what I mean by that is, can you vary this phenomena? Now, that would be to say, cause the effect. But if the effect is ongoing, i.e. whenever it's night the stars rotate, you've got to vary that which is ongoing, aka make it stop. And I just wanted to clarify that magnetism hasn't been varied in such a manner to validate it as a cause of that effect. So in this empirical forum that we find ourselves in this regard, that is the standard, unfortunately. Now, there's going to be a lot of ether believers out there that don't like that. And that's tough. I'm done.
Now, they first have to define what ether is. Now, that's not a scientific question, right?
Damn.
It's a what is question. So you have to define it. It must exist first before you get to whether it causes anything or not. Now, once you get to the cause part of it, now that's available for scientific inquiry. Not what is ether. That is a what is question that's non sequitur scientific method.
And we still can't get an answer for it.
But in
I
terms
can
of
answer that.
John just stole my
I just want to
answer
clarify one thing.
response.
In terms of their assertions, they often come with assertions of phenomena and cause and effect relationships attached to them, regardless of their constant insertion of an assumption that ether is directly connected to whatever they're claiming, in this case, magnetism. It isn't. That what is question is, as QE's just pointed out, non sequitur and not open to scientific inquiry. But when they utilise a different effect, i.e. cause magnetism, affect star rotation, that doesn't include ether at all. It's just the kind of garbage we have thrown at us when trying to insert an ether that doesn't exist into some sort of cause and effect relationship they haven't even validated. Anyway, you're right in that regard, QE. I just wanted to clarify that they do conjure up phenomena that they haven't scienced. And then
I wanted to just do that. I could keep it very short. I'm not actually defending ether, but they like to scattergun us with magnetic fields, light medium, dielectric field, counter space, unmanifested energy. Did I miss anything?
No, but maybe you can answer the Retro Bills question from the super chat, Arwin. Nathan, it's directed specifically at me, so it'd be rude to put it over on Arwin. What is the real world practical value in claiming the existence of an unprovable ether? Am I missing something? Anybody want to field that? I will answer you, Retro Bill, and thank you for the super chat. Go ahead, Arwin.
It's this unanswerable, joyous dream that reveals all these mysteries to you every time. You don't get to solve them, but you get confronted with them. So it's a very exciting, pleasant dream for as long as you hold on to it, because you're never going to be able to prove any about it.
Anybody
That's why
else want
people
to
stick to it.
look into their crystal ball? Go ahead.
Sounds like the globe again.
Nathan,
go ahead.
if I may ask, I got 5 slides to finish off the pre-show conversation before your live show ends.
Okay, but in the meantime, did you have any comment on this specifically in regards to what's the practical application for claiming an ether in the first instance? If not, I'm going to speak to it in regards to John's comment, because he said it's very much like the globe. Well, when they say, well, why would we be lied to? What's in it for them? Well, power and control. And in regards to the dissemination of bullshit information about ether, it has garnered an audience of believers and followers. So that can only speak to the motivation of the people disseminating this garbage. They want followers and believers behind them, and they've acquired them with this garbage.
Right.
So
And
power, control, same as the globe, same as any lie.
You're right, because there's also this other issue that ether has been stumbled upon and speculated about, even among physicists, like way back. So it was kind of a thing that a lot of intellectual people seem to be interested in, not necessarily like, oh, it's real, but they were interested in it. And this gives like this mysterious weight to people that really don't understand it. And yeah, they think like, oh, but they couldn't come out for it or something. But no, most of them probably knew this is just an aberration. This is just a fascinating thing to think about, but they can't prove it scientifically, right? And now all these newbies through the internet are just stumbling upon it, and they think like, oh, it was hidden from us. They suppressed the ether, and now we can finally finally make ether real again. But they just don't understand. They just don't understand what was really happening.
Bad to Hillside. He says, "What's up, guys? Good morning. Thank you to all of you giving me so much love in the super chats. Thank you very much indeed. Really appreciate the support."
Well, they can repurpose all those MAGA hats now and make ether great again.
Arwen's 100% right. Arwen, you're correct.
Nothing's really changed as much as we might hype up the fact that we're pummeling ether believers at the moment, and it'll probably cost me subscribers because there's plenty of flat earthers out there who sit on the ether believing fence and just hope it doesn't come up on this show for them to have to cringe about. Well, unfortunately, the standards don't change here, so we can't make exceptions just because there's a fair chunk of flat earthers that believe in ether. Yeah, there's not a lot I can do about the standards that we hold here. We'd be called hypocrites by every single person out there, with the exception of ether believers, if we made an exception for it. So we can't.
We're not populists. We're not populists. We go for the correctness. We go for the truth, even if that makes us unpopular.
Speaking of which, can we go to the 5 slides before the show ends?
Yes. Are we starting with the one that says curved horizon? No.
Dip of the
it's flat.
horizon. The
I was just
last set.
I was just trying to do a quick plug before you went for QE's open panel.
Go ahead.
That's it. When's your open panel? QE.
Hello.
Hello. I've got your slide up.
Hello. How are you? When's the open panel? It's on today's show.
Which is at 7 p.m. UK time. It's like pulling teeth, ladies and gentlemen. Like pulling teeth.
Yeah, it is. 1 p.m. Eastern. No, it's not 1 p.m. Eastern. 1 p.m. Central.
But obviously, given how enthusiastic QE is to have an open panel with all of you beautiful people from the audience coming on it, you should be here or be Sphere for Quantum Eraser YouTube channel open panel, 1 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. UK. Go ahead, 10th. After that,
Yeah,
incredibly enthusiastic.
You just woke up, dude.
All right.
Get the 10th before he strangles you.
All right, continuing on the conversation we had earlier, the dip of the horizon, 235, as seen. Let O be a point at a distance h above the Earth's surface. Draw tangents such as OT and OT to the surface of the Earth. The ends of all these tangents all clearly lie on the circle. This circle is called the offing, or visible horizon. The angle that each of these tangents OT makes with the horizontal plane POQ is called the dip of the horizon. Let R be the radius of the Earth and let B be the other end of the diameter through A. We then have by, I believe that's Euclid 36, I'm not sure, OT to second, This gives accurate value for OT. But drop down before the slide ends, and it says 4,000 mile. That's for the radius, 3959. They rounded it off. Go to the next slide, please. So in the naval ordnance and gunnery, use of cadet midshipmen, if you go to the following slide following the title, it says 1633, Buckner's method to determine the distance of an object at sea by observing its angular distance from within the offing. Oh, this is interesting. This is done as follows. In the figure 348, let OB represent the sea level. Can you go back to the previous 2 slides where it showed the radius of the Earth assumed?
Yep.
Okay. I see curvature. I see a circle. I see orthographic view. All right. Now let's go to the slide I was just on. Okay. This is done as follows. In figure 348, let OB represent sea level. Well, you see O at the bottom and B at the bottom. That's a straight line. Position of the observer at the height of AB. Well, that's easy. That's the vertical AB above it. And AC, a horizontal line parallel to it. AC. Wow, that's like the sensible horizon. And I wonder what AO is. Well, we'll find out. The offing or edge of the visible horizon. Okay, So when you look at AO, that's your dip, the height above the flat plane. Whereas in the previous picture, it shows it on a circle. Here, they're telling you it's parallel, like John has succinctly put to it. The dip correction is the depression angle between two straight lines. Now, you think we're the first to answer this. Go to the next slide. Here's a book called Zetetic Cosmogony, 1899. Go to the last slide. Disappearances of ships at sea. J.W. Draper, in his Conflict Between Religion and Science, page 160, says the circular visible horizon and its dip at sea, the gradual appearance and disappearance of ships in the offing, cannot fail to incline intelligent sailors to a belief in the globular form of the Earth. The circular visible horizon amounts to nothing because we take our stand in a large square of, say, 20 miles. The visible horizon will be circular, any point in the distance being the edge of the circle of vision. If we measure off a square of 100 miles or so, the vision will be bounded by a circle, the limit of sight. So the circular visible horizon may at once be dismissed, but its dip at sea is just what has never been seen. It is the very thing that requires to be seen to establish the globular theory. It is the very thing that never has been seen. Wherever we look at sea, the water extends in one straight line and as far as the eye can reach. A flat surface is always seen, and the ships are seen at distance altogether out of proportion to the allowance to be made for convexity if the surface were a convex one. Then he goes on to talk about, obviously, perspective and so forth. But do you see, this is the original FED telling him you're silly. And then they show in their own books that it's a straight line. And then they show orthographically it's a sphere. What say you?
It's just a necessity to have a flat plane and then double speak around how it's not done and show diagrams of how it's not done to then go on show how it is done with a flat plane and how it works with a flat plane. And that John's differential correction between two flat planes is what you're doing. There's no curved surfaces involved. It wouldn't work if there was. Doesn't stop him showing it like there is.
I don't like what he says that if you can see dip, it that dip has not been seen and is what you would see if it were a globe. That's an incorrect statement. It's just.
I think he's asking for proof of R, curvature.
Well, it's just the way he phrased it. You will see dip correction because the parallel line you draw out from your eye as you change in height will always have a differential from the plane.
He's basically saying, John, I think he's basically saying if you go back to the first image of the circle and the offing there, he's saying that can never be seen. The orthographic view of it, that's never seen.
Okay, if that's what he meant, then I agree with that. You can't ever see an orthographic view, but I don't know, the way it was phrased, it could get confusing.
I think that's the intention. Perfect. With that, I'll say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. Another huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley channel member to see the mad pre-show that we had today. And I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!